Hmm. So let's start with the first type of relationship, that is lookup relations. And what I would be going to do is like, I'm going to create a lookup relationship between hiring manager and the position object. Now, yesterday itself, we have a discussion about whenever we are creating a relationship, the relationship creation is a two-step job. And in the step number one, you first of all would have to know that between the two objects where you are supposed to create a relationship, which object which object would become a parent, which of them would become a child, right? So how somebody would going to know this? How somebody would going to know this, right? I mean, as far as it would be concerned with you guys, right? You probably would have a document every time in your hand. And based on that document, you can simply select one of them as parent, another one as child. But see, understand, if it is your responsibility to decide that it is not just about creating a relationship, if they ask you, if they ask you that you should decide among those two objects, which one should be the parent and which one should be the child, then how you are going to take that decision? So for that, actually, I was trying to tell that, see, it all depends on uh, dependencies. So you first of all would have to identify the dependencies, and you would have to consider which object is dependent on to which object. And a general rule for this is like the childs are always have a dependency on their parents. So when you would able to locate this dependency, you can understand which one is a child object. Now based on the same theory, based on the same hypothesis, we are asked to create a relationship, a lookup relationship between hiring manager and the position. So let's quickly initiate and conclude that discussion, which is going to be the parent, which is going to be the child. Yesterday itself, a small discussion I have initiated regarding this. Hiring manager is not actually dependent on the position, rather position is having a dependencies on hiring manager. Because if there are so many positions, if there is no hiring manager, who could do the recruitments for these positions, there would be no meaning to have positions unless there is an hiring manager for this, right? So we clearly identify that positions are dependent on hiring manager. And that is why I am considering hiring manager as parent object, whereas the position I'm considering this as a child object. All right, based on this dependencies, what we have identified. Now, that was my step number one. Now, in the step number two, what we have seen is you have to go to the child object, right? Where if you wanted to create a relationship, relationships are always created into the child object. They are always created inside the child object. So we have to go to the child. Whose child? Position is your child object, right? Position is your child object. You have to go to position object, and inside position, you have to create a relationship. All right, now let's do that. So I would be going to position object. I am expanding force.com quick access menu, and then inside view fields, you can go with view fields as well, no issue, but try directly, to click on new. So it would open an interface where it would ask you what kind of new field you wanted to create. Now, because we wanted to create a relationship field, see, we have to come to this section. Yesterday, somebody has asked me, or I have told you that when I ask this question in interview, most of the time, The answer what I get is there are three types of relationships: lookup, master detail, external lookup. And why usually this answer I get? Because when you go to this interface, you can see there are only three type of relationships over here: lookup, master detail, and external lookup relationship. That is the reason people usually prepare themselves from online resources. I am not saying that is not good, but that is not sufficient. That is not enough. The resources that are available online. So there are so many good videos, although there are so many good people, they have explained it. But most of the videos what I have seen, they have explained things, but they haven't explained it, in detail. They keep it up to certain level, and then rest other things as they nobody would try to taught them, right? And that could be a reason when somebody is learning, from the online resources completely, and then he's giving an interview, it would be like, same thing, like jack of all and master of none. You know everything, but you are not having a specialization even on a single topic of Salesforce. And this is the reason why people used to say me, there are three different types of relationship, because what you see is what you are giving an answer, but it's not. Anyways, we're going to discuss where are other all, where the names like hierarchy relationship, the name like many to many, and one to one, where are all these other relationships are there, right? So we would going to see that as well, don't worry. But right now, what is our use case? Our use case is to create a lookup relationship. What is our task? Our task is to create a lookup relationship. What is our job? Our job is to create a lookup relationship between hiring manager and position. And because we identified position as a child object, we identified position as a child object, and that is the reason I am creating this field inside position object. All right, so I would go with lookup relationship. I'll select the lookup relationship, and then after selecting lookup, I would click on to the next button. This would ask you select the other object to which this object is related, and particularly it is asking you to select the parent. If this object position is a child object, then this is related to which object? This is related to which parent? So hiring manager is parent. So I would be selecting hiring manager, right? I would be selecting hiring manager. That hiring manager is the parent, although, right? And then click on to the next. You can give the name, you can change the label. You can keep it as it is. If you want, you can change the label as well. I'll make it HR manager, right? You can keep it as it is. You can change the label. It's up to you, right? After this, click on to the next button. Then make it visible for all of the profile users. Click on to the next and let it land it onto the default layout of position. So click on to the next. All right. And this is something called as related list. In the related list, this would appear as positions, right? What is a related list? We already had a discussion during the page layout customizations. Although I'll make you clear this once again, right? What is this is all about? Let me save it. All right. So now what we did is like inside position object, these all are the fields. We have created one lookup relationship. We have created one lookup relationship with hiring manager object. And what is the name of that field is HR manager. Let me show you. So if you go with the position object, now you can see there is one field called HR manager. And what you can select is like, there's a small lookup icon over here. When you select this, when you go with this, it would show you names of the hiring manager. For example, I'll do one thing for this. How many hiring managers we are having? We are having only 2 records. All right. Let me first of all create some records for this, right? Let me create some records. I would require some test data, and that is the reason I'm doing this. So let me try to create few of the records. All right. So now probably, I'm having few records inside hiring manager. If I go with all, you could see these are the records inside hiring manager. Now, all right, let's go to the position object once again. And because we already had created one relationship, right? This is my relationship field over inside position. Now let's talk about few of the things. Uh, as an observation, let's talk about few of the things and see, understand one more thing. Next to this, we would be going to learn master detail relationship as well. Now, after the master detail have been completed, and there are like even even after master detail relationship, we will going to see some of the observations. We're going to discuss on those points. I would ask you, after that master detail has been completed, now I would ask you to create the differences, to create the differences between these two relationships. I would ask you to create the relationship differences, right, between the lookup and the master detail. So this, what we are going to discuss right now, all these points, this would help you out. This would help you out to create the relationship differences between a lookup and the master detail. And one more thing about this is like, these are being asked. These are being asked. Very repeatedly, commonly, these are some of the common questions for almost all interviews, right? Differences between lookup relationship and a master detail relationships. All right. So let's have those discussions. So the first point over here is, upon mapping, upon creating. Mapping is a word that means upon creation. When you connect something, when you connect two things, that is something, it's mapping. So upon creating a lookup relationship between the two objects, it would provide you one-to-many association by default. Let me clarify this point. So if I go to, if I go to setup, and now if I go to the schema builder, and I'll bring these two custom objects, right? I'll bring all of them are already over here. Now see, when you look into this, when you look into this, these two objects now are connected with each other, right? Although there is no relationship between position and candidate, of course, we haven't created anything for them. Yeah, but at least hiring manager and position, they are now connected with each other. If you put your cursor on this line, you could see that there's a lookup relationship. There's a lookup relationship from the position to the hiring manager. From the position to the hiring manager. Actually, the correct pronunciation, whenever you are describing this relationship to somebody, you have to first take the name of child and then parent. This is the right way. This is the right way to describing this relationship. This is the right way to describing the relationship. And that's the reason that the correct pronunciation is like, it is lookup relationship. It's a lookup relationship from position to the hiring manager. All right, this is the correct way to describe a relationship. Chalo, wo ek alag cheez hai. Secondly, if you see this line, by the way, who is your parent? Who is your parent? So the parent is hiring manager. The hiring manager object, the hiring manager object is parent. Whereas your position object is child. The position object is the child. And when you observe, when you observe this line, from the parent end, this is always one single line. and but it is having a multiple openings, it is having a multiple openings or closings, whatever, or multiple lines in a simple word, multiple lines from the child end. So it is always one to many. One, one would always your parent. Many would always be your child. Whenever you create a relationship, though it's a lookup, it's a master detail. Whenever you create a relationship, this point actually is not a point of difference. Rather, I have to say, I can say that this is something which is common between a lookup and a master detail relationship. Whenever you create a relationship, whenever you create a relationship, it is like, one would be your parent, many would be your child, many would be your child. So it's always one to many. It's always one to many, right? This is something you have to remember. All right. So that signifies the first point. Whenever you create a relationship, though it's a lookup or master detail, this point is common. It would create, or it would always create, a one to many association, where one is from the parent and many is from the child. And that means one parent could have many childs. One hiring manager could handle multiple positions. All right. So one hiring manager could handle multiple positions, right? So that is how it is going to be get described. And the next point, number 2. Now, lookup relationship can be formed between two objects if the child was having some previous record. See, I haven't seen to this, but if I go with the position object, and I think there were no records of position inside over there slide. But I almost forgot to mention this. But what should I, matlab, agar if position was having, if the position was having some of the previous records, like if I go with the candidates has having Ram Kumar and Satish Tripathi, hiring manager was having few of the records was there. I don't remember, but yeah, there were few records. I think Sumit Kumar and Manish Singh, there were the two records. I haven't created anything inside position, although, but even if though the position was having some of the old data inside this, it would not stop you. It would not stop you for creating the relationship. All right. So even though the object is having some old data, some previous records, lookup relationship can be created easily. There is no hurdle into this, right? That is your second point. Third point is when you go to the user interface, like over here, when you go to the user interface, this, okay, you can see that this HR manager field, the relationship field, appears to be a non-required field. See, just above to that, email ID, number of vacancies, whatever, that are mandatory fields. If you are filling up this form, you have to enter the details over every mandatory field. All right. So this actually means what? But your relationship field is not at all a mandatory. It's not a required field. That means it could have a record. It couldn't have a record. Okay. See, if I would create a position called Java developer, right? Number of vacancies are 10. HR email ID is like hr@test.com. I'll be selecting this status newly approved and this contact number and for the Bangalore location. Minimum budget is 5 lakh, once 10, 100,000, 10,000 lakh. Maximum budget is 10 lakh, 100,000, 10,000 lakh and 10 lakh, right? Opening date, let me take today's date. Closing date, I'll take it December 31st would be the last date. Let me copy the same thing into position descriptions and all that. Passport is also required, even travel is also required. See, I haven't selected any hiring manager. I have not selected any hiring manager. Could I save this record? Yes, of course. The record have been saved, right? So the HR, the lookup relationship field over here, the name is HR manager. This appears to be a non-required field. That means for this record, I could select an hiring manager. Even without selecting an hiring manager, I could save a record. Having a parent is not that much important. I would not say this. I mean, this is a wrong statement. I would rather say having a parent for every child record is not compulsory. Having a parent, I mean, if you see the Java developer record doesn't have any parent, doesn't have any HR manager selected to this, but still you can save the record. So even though if in the lookup relationship, even in the lookup relationship, this is a very important point that the child could have a parent. The child could have a parent, even though if child doesn't have a parent, it's perfect. I mean, Salesforce will allow you to store a record inside database, inside child. You allow Salesforce allow you to create a child record even without having a parent record associated to this. And that is what it has been written somewhere. A child record, child may or may have been associated with a parent. Otherwise, it is all good. Even if it is not associated, that is also okay with the Salesforce, right? I can associate, I cannot associate. That's up to me. All right. If I go and edit now, if I wanted to associate, I wanted to give this position to an hiring manager, for example, Akshay Dave. So I'm giving this. I'm giving this to Akshay. Then now, I'll now save this. That's also good. Now this would mean that there is a hiring manager called Akshay. Now Akshay would responsible for Java developer. All of the positions Java developer has been recruited from the Akshay Dave. This position has been allotted to Mr. Akshay Dave, right? So this is what. So you can have a parent if you don't want it to. I mean, you can even remove this C. So in a lookup relationship, the relationship field appears to be a non-mandatory field. That means for a child record, we could have a parent associated, even though if there is no parent, that is also okay. Salesforce allow you to save a record like this as well. Like that was your third to fourth, whatever. Now, reparenting option is available by default. This means, see, if today this position was given to Akshay Dave and Akshay was working, but due to certain reasons, Akshay is not available to work anymore onto this position. Probably he is being allotted with some other important work. And that's why he requested his manager this. I'm having one pending task with me. There is a position Java developer, which was being allotted to me, but I'm not getting proper time. I'm not getting proper time to give justice to this work. So could you please allot this to somebody else so that I could start working on the next high priority task, what has been assigned to me? So the manager said, all right, Akshay, I understand your problem. I will assign this to somebody else. Don't worry. You concentrate onto this job, whatever is newly assigned to you, because that is on high priority. All right, that's good. So this position, which was initially being assigned to Akshay, right? Now, reparenting. See, who was the parent? The parent was Akshay. Now, could I change the parent? Could I reparent this? Yes, of course. Now there's another hiring manager in team called Manish Singh. Now this position has been given to him. Previously, who was the parent? Akshay. Now who is in parent? Manish. This is something called as reparenting. So we could periodically, whenever we require, we could change the parent. This is something called as reparenting, which is possible. With a lookup relationship, it is possible. All right. So upon removing the parent record, only parent would get removed. All the associated child would not getting removed. There is no cascade deletions. There is no cascade deletions. Means what? See, now this position has been given to Manish Singh. All right. All right. I'll go to Manish Singh. I'll go with Manish. And going with Manish. I open the record of Manish, and due to certain reasons, I'm deleting this record. All right. So Manish, there is no hiring manager called Manish in system right now. Manish has resigned and he is being relieved from his duty. Yesterday, it was the last working day. And now we don't have Manish in our team. He left us. So the position that was given to him, what about that position? Now, if I refresh the see, that is being gone. All right. What is gone? Only that particular portion which was indicating the relationship field becomes blank. Only this particular portion which was indicating to us that Java developer position has been assigned to this hiring manager. Only that is deleted. That means the relationship now has broken, right? The relationship has broken. Now this position again requires and hiring manager, and it is saying the hiring manager that was allotted has been deleted. So only the parent record would get deleted. If you refresh, you can still see Java developer, right? Inside the position, if I go with all position, I could see a Java developer. So when you delete a parent, right, only the parent record gets deleted. All the associated child, they are still there, they are still there. They would not get deleted. And when you restore that, when you restore it back, it would restore C. This is what happens, right? So when you delete a parent, only parent would get deleted, child wouldn't get deleted. There is no cascade deletions. No cascade deletions. Cascade matlab chain se ek ke baad ek delete karna. The chain reaction. If this happen, that is also supposed to be get happens. That is what cascade. All right. So there is no cascade deletion. No, nothing. All right. So an object could have 40 lookup relationship. For example, if I go with the schema builder over here, you can see that this object position, this object position is associated as a child. It is associated with hiring manager. I could say that position is a child. Position is a child of hiring manager. Position is a child of hiring manager, right? Position is a child of hiring manager. This is what I could say. Now, in the same way, position could also be a child of some other objects as well. Position could also be a child of some other object. All right. Position could also be a child of some other objects as well. Right. I mean, let me try to make that diagram. So position could be a child of some other objects as well. Right. Position. The position is a child of hiring manager. Position is also a child of object number 2, object number 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then 6, and maximum 40. So one object could be associated. One object in lookup relationship could be associated as a child with maximum 40 object. That means if position, for example, is a child, it could be the child of 40 different parents. This object could be associated with 40 objects in a lookup relationship. That is what the concept would signify, right? That is what the concept would signify. So an object could have a 40 lookup relationship. That means a child object can be associated with 40 parents, not more than that. Right? Sharing settings, and this is, I'll be signifying this you later on. But yes, you have to remember it right now. Although this, I am going to cover it, I would be covering this in one of the topic called security. We would be learning, something called as security. As in part of admin training itself, there is a topic called security. Inside security, I will be describing you this more, but right now what you have to remember, every one of you, sharing and security settings for the child. In case of lookup relationship, child and parent, both of them are having separate individual sharing and settings. I mean, the sharing and security settings are independent. Child would have a different sharing setting, different security setting. Parent could have a different sharing and security setting. There is no interdependencies between each other. In case of a lookup relationship, child would have a separate sharing setting. Child could have a separate security setting. Your parent could have a different set of security and sharing settings. This is what you have to remember. Roll-up summary is something we are going to cover in the relationship itself, but roll-up summary cannot be created on lookup relationship. Roll-up summary cannot be created on lookup relationship. It can only and only be created on a master detail relationship. This is a very important point, but I would be covering this after master detail. Because after master detail relationship, we are going to have certain discussions, right? So during one discussion, there would be a discussion where we are going to talk about, like, if I tell you to create a relationship and I will not tell you what type of relationship. So based on what facts, based on what evidences, you will going to decide what type of relationship should I take. Lookup, master detail. And see, this kind of inputs, that is what I always try to make you aware. People can taught you videos, what you see on online or maybe with some other resources. They can teach you about this. There is a lookup relationship. This is how the lookup is created. There's a master detail. This is how the master detail would be created. But when you ask them, all right, you taught me two things. You taught me two things. There are two things you taught me. Now tell me based on what scenario I would going to decide. Okay, here I have to apply lookup. Here I have to apply master. Nobody would tell you this. This could be only, this could only be covered by someone who is working with real-time scenario. The one who is working with actual projects, the one who is working as a software, as a Salesforce developer, he can only, talk about those scenarios. I always say you, this is something which is, which is, I could say, is the most important USP of our trainings. The most important unique selling point of our training is like we make you aware about those decisions what we take. There's those real time. Like if you remember, I told you there are 5 different ways to make a field mandatory. You can make it mandatory by required checkbox. You can make it mandatory by page layout customizations. You can write down on validation rule to make it mandatory. That was third point. These 3 are non-coding. Then you can by coding, by writing an Apex trigger also you can make it mandatory. And with the visual first programming, of course, this is also possible. So there are 5 different ways. But then we have a discussion between required checkbox and page layout customizations. So what I wanted you to understand, like, people would make you aware about facts. And this is something, yeah, but they nobody would tell this. Give what scenario, based on what scenario, based on what, kind of requirement you have to go with this. You have to go with required checkbox. You have to go with page layout customizations. So that we had a discussion, during one of our lecture, we had that discussion as well. The same way, see, it's very important to understand where to create a lookup and where to create a master detail. So what we are going to do would be like, pehle to abhi aap seekh lo what is in master detail, what is in lookup, majorly what are the differences between these two relationships, how to create a lookup relationship. Just now we did it, right? How, even in the next lecture there are a few more points. Abhi do teen cheezein rahengi beech mein iske, lookup dialog box and filter configurations. After that we will going to start master detail. So once that portion is also completed, master detail, once that portion is also completed, after that, we will going to have this discussion. Now let's understand based on what scenario, based on what, what I'm not getting the proper word to describe, based on what thing or whatever, right? You would select lookup, or you would going to select an master detail relationship. And that is where, this point would serve a very important evidences. And there are few more things as an evidences we are going to, work on to those facts. So this is an important point, but there is a separate scope of discussion for this. We're going to take it later. Tomorrow morning, I'll start with lookup filter and lookup dialog box configuration. That two topics, the same, these two topics I would be covering in the same lectures. All right. Today I'm ending this right now because I just don't want it to create a sandwich of topics. I wanted to keep things which are important. I wanted to keep them in a separate sessions. So it would be like, understand one thing. Sometime I could stretch your class. Mostly, that is going to mostly happen in the coding part. Sometimes when I feel that this is something that requires to be get finished in a single dose, that time I would stretch your class a little bit, and that this would happen mostly in coding part, because coding, it requires lots of typing effort. So when I'm typing in program, I have to describe you each and every line simultaneously. That's why it requires time. And sometimes, it would be, what I feel is like, if there are 3 to 4 topics, but I wanted to, understand you the importance of one of them. So I'll keep it, in a small quantum of doses, write that, right? I'll give you this in a small inputs. So it would be like this only, but you know, this is how we keep, going to give the justice to every topic. So this is how I usually taught. This is how I take my training sessions, right? So by tomorrow morning, we're going to finish these two topics. Today, it would be like you are going to replicate the same thing what I did in class. Every one of you would also create and lookup relationship between hiring manager and position. At the same time, after creating a relationship, you will go with every point of this, and you know, you will going to every point of this, and you would understand it. Okay, this is the, I mean, you would going to make an observation of all those points. Just go with this by today, nothing else. All right, that's all for today. I'm giving you this command. Now you can unmute yourself if you wanted to ask me any questions. Any questions?
सर
Yes,
आप
Ruchira.
अभी बोल रहे थे कि पोजीशन जो एक ऑब्जेक्ट है उसका 40 अदर ऑब्जेक्ट के साथ आप रिलेशन रख सकते हैं, मतलब वो रिलेशन बना सकते हैं, राइट? 40 अदर, पर वो सब प्रैक्टिकली वो होगा क्या? क्योंकि जैसे अभी आपने एक बताया हायरिंग मैनेजर और पोजीशन का, आपने उसका रिलेशन बनाया, मतलब एक फील्ड बनाया उसका, तो सर ऐसे 40 अदर्स रहेंगे तो वो तो 40 मतलब ऐसे फील्ड्स आएंगे फिर, राइट?
बिल्कुल होता है ना। 40 नहीं होता होगा कभी कभी, या 40 होता भी होगा। मैं थोड़ा बहुत इसको और जस्टिफाई कर सकता हूँ। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अभी एक नॉट एग्जैक्टली विद द पोजीशन, लेट्स से देयर इज अनदर ऑब्जेक्ट कॉल्ड एम्प्लॉय, ऑलराइट। ऐसा आप अज्यूम करके चलो कि वी आर हैविंग वन ऑब्जेक्ट, वन चाइल्ड ऑब्जेक्ट कॉल्ड एम्प्लॉय। नाउ दिस एम्प्लॉय could be related with 40 different parents. Some of them would be like एम्प्लॉय है, या फिर एक सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर, जो कुछ भी, उसका मैनेजर, लाइन मैनेजर, डिलीवरी मैनेजर, प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजर, एचआर मैनेजर, ठीक है, ये अलग अलग कैटेगरीज हो जाती हैं। देन ही कुड आल्सो बी रिलेटेड यू नो विद द प्रोजेक्ट्स। सो प्रोजेक्ट्स एक ऑब्जेक्ट हो सकता है, probably he would be having a relationship between projects and employee as well, कि this employee or maybe this software engineer, this developer is associated with this project, all right? तो 5-7 तो ऐसी ही बन जाती हैं। और कुड बी लाइक यू नो, और अगर मैं कुछ सोच सकता हूँ तो probably कि he is holding some of the you know, अभी जैसे द काइंड ऑफ वेरिएबल कंपोनेंट्स इन सैलरी, तो उसमें भी काफी सारे बेनिफिट्स जो हमको ऐड होते हैं। तो ही कुड आल्सो बी एसोसिएटेड विद थिंग्स लाइक एनपीएस, नेशनल पेंशन स्कीम्स। ही कुड आल्सो बी अ पार्ट ऑफ एलआईसीज, राइट? तो दैट कुड बी वन ऑब्जेक्ट जहां पर यू कैन डिसाइड के ही इज बीइंग गेटिंग व्हाट काइंड ऑफ यू नो एडिशनल बेनिफिट्स। सो नॉट एग्जैक्टली 40, बट या मतलब ऐसा इन रियल टाइम एज वेल हो सकता है कि one entity could have multiple relationships, so that is possible। ठीक है, अभी एग्जैक्ट मेरे पास में वो आंसर नहीं मैं दे पा रहा हूँ आपको, बट येट आई हैव सीन कि ठीक है 40 नहीं तो कम से कम 12-13 तो देख रखी है मैंने।
यस।
Any more questions?
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Bhagwati.
Sir, my voice is clear to you?
Yes, of course.
Sir, when I am creating field inside the standard objects, then how it is separated in sections?
Whenever you create this, you know, even in the standard object itself, you know, for example, if you create something, a field inside an account, and you go to view fields, there is separate section. This one would be your standard fields which were already there, and just below to this there is a custom fields. From here as well you can go and create some new fields inside this. So they are going to be get highlighted, and they are going to be listed over here in the custom fields and relationship sections. All right. Agushin, is this was your question or something
No,
else?
sir. No, sir.
I did not understand.
It is not my question. When we created field
Where?
inside the standard objects.
Which standard object? You tell me that.
Standard navigation object.
Standard navigation. No. You are mixing the things. Standard object or standard navigation. When you are creating a field with standard navigation, this is what?
सर जब हम मतलब फील्ड तैयार करते हैं तो वो सेक्शन में नहीं आती क्या?
हाँ.
एडिट लेआउट
अच्छा, ठीक है. हाँ, बोलिए. क्या कहना चाहते हैं?
मतलब जैसे पोजीशन में हम एक फॉर्म क्रिएट करते हैं.
फॉर्म, फील्ड, दिस एवरीथिंग इज डिफरेंट.
हाँ.
आप मुझे
तो
क्वेश्चन
सर
अच्छे
ये
से समझाइए.
हाँ तो ये जब इंफॉर्मेशन में पोजीशन नेम ये वगैरह सब है एंड बजट्स में ये मिनिमम बजट्स वगैरह है. मतलब ये सब एक ही इसमें रहता ना लाइन में, तो ये सेपरेट कैसे करते हैं?
Probably you have missed that session. Page layout customization.
Excuse me, sir. Your voice is not clear.
I cannot say anything on to this. Guys, what is this? Is my voice is clear to everyone? This is especially with Kajal.
Yes sir, voice is clear.
Kajal, it's up to you. आपकी तरफ से प्रॉब्लम है, हमारी साइड से कुछ नहीं. आप एक काम करें. Who was asking me this question? Bhagishri.
Sir?
Who was asking me this question? अभी ये क्वेश्चन कौन पूछ रहा था? अरे ये क्वेश्चन किसने पूछा? अभी भाग्यश्री आपने पूछा, किसने पूछा? I just forgot.
भाग्यश्री टेकाड़े.
भाग्यश्री, do one thing. ये जो आप पूछ रहे हो ना कि how this all sections and everything has been created. So you probably have missed that session. You know, go with this. Go with session number 20 and 21.
Okay,
so
sir.
this I completed, you know, this I have achieved with page layout customization. So शायद आपने ये मिस किया, इस वजह से आप ये क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हैं. So go with this, you're going to get your answer.
Okay, sir.
My bandwidth is good. You can see how much I'm getting. It's probably with your internet, guys. My internet usually is good. So I didn't face any issues with the internet. If my voice is breaking, that is not because of my network. It's because of your network. Anything else, guys? Any other questions? Any other question? Yes, any other questions?